Welcome, Degens, to another edition of the Degen Docs. That is right, folks. We are talking Monday Night Football. We are talking about NFL Week 4 wrap-up. We're doing an injury breakdown. We've got best bets. We've got waiver wire targets. We've got it all. So make sure you stay tuned because this NFL Week 5 preview and fantasy football edition of the Degen Docs on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code SGPNDOC to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football in the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, folks. I am one of your hosts here, the Degen Docs, the OG, and I am joined, as always, by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, a.k.a. Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
Doing pretty well. Got another double header tonight, coming off of a pretty nice day yesterday in the betting realms. I think of the 8 spreads that I took yesterday, I hit 6 of them. So
there you go.
Doing pretty well there. Props, we're not going to talk about those, but in general, had a decent day yesterday. How'd your Sunday slate go?
Oh, man. Yeah, no, dude, Derek and I, look, man, Derek crushed it 3-1 with his locks, so definitely shout out to him. I fell back down to earth 2 straight weeks of 3-1 and 1-3. So fell back down to earth a little bit. But what we will say, first off, how fucking rude of me. I apologize. First off, apologize to you, brother. I apologize, audience. I just took a drink without fucking cheering you motherfuckers. So cheers. Happy Monday night. Apologize. Terribly fucking rude. But no, we did talk about we
Worst
got on
host in the business.
We talked about Sunday night, what we liked, what our slate liked was, and we fucking crushed it last night, man. We put these plays out. There's another reason why you should follow us on the socials there. Obviously we get out plays, but we got together. We were bored on Sunday. We said, man, what do you like Sunday night? So we fucking went 7 for 8. We crushed it. It definitely helped bring me out of a bit of a hole on Sunday and then end the day on a high note. And for you, it just kind of added some cherries on top there. But
when a brother's down, a hand gets reached out, we yank you back out of a hole, and we continue on the journey, right? We got 2 games out here. 2 games leading into tonight, and spill your beer again.
God damn it. Look, I got a towel ready.
3 shows in a row. Come on, man.
Dude, I apologize. Look, I literally have a towel ready because I knew this. First of all, this beer, man, I love Oktoberfest, but come on, dude. Every time I just take it, I thought I did enough to test it out, but clearly it just likes to fizzle out on me. But so, look, folks, we are not going to spend too much time talking about last week because we've got about 12 minutes until kickoff, and we've got some bets that we want to give out. But what we will talk about is let's talk about one game in particular for last week. Let's talk about that fucking Cleveland Browns at the Las Vegas Raiders game. My goodness, did my eyes hurt watching after that. Now, thank you, Raiders. You were my one lock. That did hit this week. And listen, folks, I don't think the Las Vegas Raiders are a good team. The Cleveland Browns are just that bad of a team. Like, the Raiders were giving them that game on a silver platter, and they just decided, hey, we don't want it. I mean, it was absolutely brutal. I don't know. How much of that game did you catch?
I didn't catch much of the game. I was keeping track on my phone for the most part. But, yeah, like you said, I mean, we were both kind of down on the Browns coming into the season. We were a little bit higher on the Raiders, but holy smokes, it didn't take much of the season to turn our heads on the Raiders. We'll talk a little bit more about that game coming up in a segment to come. But, the Cleveland Browns, that offense, holy smokes, is a shell of what it should be. You know, part of it, obviously, they have all kinds of issues up front with injuries. Deshaun Watson, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to show up to a game.
Bad.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, they were in Vegas, so there may have been some.
You're telling me Deshaun Watson took some other activity?
Well, you know, he turns his head every once in a while to some other business. So, or at least supposedly does. But anyway,
allegedly.
Yes, exactly.
All right, folks, we're gonna
let's get into these games.
Yeah, let's get into these games. Before we do this, look, I gotta tell you about what we got going over here on SGPN. The most Degen pregame shows in the world. Saturday college experience has got you started 11 a.m. Eastern time. And for the NFL, Propcast kicks off at 11, followed by ESPN at noon. Last second bets, DJ parlays, and your calls and more. If you want to get some last second a little bit, I occasionally pop my head in there and give you good people some last minute injury updates, give you some best bets. So definitely check out all the pregame shows. Shout out to Colby and Terrell over on the college because they've been helping me crush it in college this year. All right, folks, we got about 10 minutes until kickoff for the first game. So that means that's where we're starting here. We're going to go ahead and kick it off. Hey, as always, jump in the comments. I would love to know who's on the Dolphins, who's on the Titans, what we got going on, what props you guys like today. And then, of course, if you got injury questions, we're going to be getting to that right after that. We'll do our injury rundown. All right, so we've got first game up on the slate, the Tennessee Titans, the winless 0-3 Tennessee Titans, heading down to beautiful Miami, Florida, to take on the Miami Dolphins. Tennessee catching 2.5 points. What are they on the money line? I know it's always tough to do these because these are like
Tennessee is plus 124 currently on the money line. Dolphins at minus 148.
There we go. Over-under still at 37-ish?
37.5, and spread's 2.5 still.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to give a quick injury take. I'm going to let Derek take it away with his best bets, and I'll get mine in so you guys can help run cash with us. All right. On the Tennessee Titans side of the ball, they are the healthier team coming in. 2 big injuries. Jeffrey Simmons, their best player on their team, period. All-world defensive tackle, is out with an elbow injury. Chidobe Wussies, their cornerback number 2, who they picked up from the Bengals, he's also on the IR with a groin injury. So not a lot of injuries, but 2 major ones.
Yep.
Dolphins, they've got a couple more injuries, some big ones here. Left tackle Teron Armstead out. Running back Raheem Mostert out with a chest injury. David Long, linebacker, also out. And CB2 Kendall Fuller is out. So beat up a little bit on both offense and defense there. All right. What is your best bets for this game?
So I did a little bit of a deeper dive on this one because obviously neither of these teams have really shown much life at all on the offensive side of the ball. Well, I guess the Titans have, but they end up throwing the ball to the other team just as often as
maybe too much
plays themselves. Yeah. But I went ahead and did some research on our buddy Will Levis. And Seb, do you know what Will Levis majored in college?
Consuming disgusting food.
Close. But he was a business guy. So business analytics, those kind of things. I would really, really hope that this guy knows what regression to the mean means. Okay. This guy's been throwing it to the other team, throwing picks all season this far. And I am really thinking that he'll figure this whole regression to the mean thing out. Especially, like you said, we have a couple guys on the Dolphins defense that'll be out this game. So I like the Titans to cover tonight. As far as props go, I'll just throw out a couple. I do like Tony Pollard in this game. He's been getting the lion's share of the carries for sure. So I took his 75 yards rushing and receiving at plus 100.
There you go.
And then where'd the other one go? Chigoziem Okonkwo.
No, I'm not back on.
Give me Okonkwo at over 2.5 catches as well. I did take Tyler Huntley's over 40 yards at plus 155 just because, like you said, Armstead's out. Yep. They looked god awful, really, in their last 2 games from an offensive line standpoint. So give me Huntley to get out of there and pick up some yards on the ground.
No, I like that play on the Huntley play. I will definitely co-sign that play. But look here, you were talking about the regression to the mean for Will Levis. My concern is this is his mean. Like, this is Will Levis's baseline. Like, he's just not
averages a pick and a half.
So I am on the other side with you, and I'll go a step further. I'm going to say Miami -3 at plus 103 when I took it just a couple minutes ago there. Look, I think it comes down to a competent quarterback, Pro Bowler, Snoop Huntley, against Will Levis. Will Levis is just not the guy. I agree that the Tennessee Titans have good pieces around him. He's just going to fuck up a wet dream right now. So I will not be laying any hard-earned money on Will Levis. I never thought he was good coming out of Kentucky. As a Florida fan, I watched a lot of him. He had a little bit of the Zach Wilson effect of a giant arm, but dude, the guy didn't win. The guy's not a winner, right? I mean, Zach Wilson did get some wins in college, but man, Will Levis was never really a winner at Kentucky. Like, who was his biggest win? Kind of a la Joe Milton. But anyway, I like Miami because I like them to run the damn ball. I think that, look, McDaniel said, hey, this is going to be our strength. We need to figure out, quarterback. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do, but you can run on this Titans defense, and especially with no Jeffrey Simmons there in the middle. So I'm going to go with Dolphins -3. I'm also going to go with, oh, geez. Of course, my doc just picked up here. Hold on. This is why we need the intern.
That's right. That's right. So you like the Dolphins at 3. It looks like Achane over 65.5.
I got it. Yeah. So look, I think you're going to be a run heavy game. Appreciate the assist there. Run heavy game. So Devon Achane over 65.5 rush yards at +110. Snoop Huntley, like you mentioned, I took him over 35.5 at +115. I do think that with Kendall Fuller out, that secondary, I think they're going to have to be throwing as far as the Titans. I do think they're going to be coming from behind. So I like Calvin Ridley. Kendall Fuller is going to be out. I think Calvin Ridley only 45.5 yards to be at +120. That's just very low. I know Will Levis isn't the most accurate, but I think, Calvin Ridley's a big play guy. He can get there 1 or 2 catches.
Definitely.
The other side I liked is, do you know how many times that Will Levis has been sacked in 15 games or in 3 games?
14 times.
Well, I just gave it away. It's 15. So he's been sacked 15 times in 3 fucking games. That's insane. So I'm taking Emmanuel Ogbah over a quarter of a sack at +145. He already has one on the year. They mix him in very well. You also, I do like Jalen Phillips over 3/4 of a sack. So a full sack at +100 there, even money. So I am on the Dolphins. I do think they're going to be able to run the ball, and I do think they're going to be able to get home on Will Levis like every other team has. All right, moving on to the next game. Do you have anything else for that game?
Nope.
So look at that, folks. We gave you a whole 3 minutes to get those locks in. So go ahead and get those in. Why don't we start with the next game? Seattle Seahawks, undefeated Seattle Seahawks. Bit of a surprise, heading to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions there, who are sitting at 2-1 themselves. What are your takeaways from this game? How do you see this game going?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first, do you want to run through guys that are in versus out?
Yeah, why don't you do that for us?
Yep, let's do it. So for the Seahawks, we got a bunch of guys on the defensive side. Nwosu, Baker, and Mafe at the linebacker position are all going to be out tonight. Byron Murphy up front, the D tackle, as well as Leonard Williams. So that front 7 is definitely taking a hit for Seattle.
Yep.
And then on the Lions side, don't have nearly as many, but a couple big names. Brian Branch, the safety kind of nickel guy, is going to be out, as well as Frank Ragnow. They're starting all-pro center. And then that's really it for the Lions. But, I think it'll be one of those games where the Lions are a run-heavy team to begin with. And especially with all those guys out for Seattle, I think this is going to be a Montgomery and Gibbs night from the get-go. Yeah,
no, I definitely agree with you. And look, Seattle laying 4.5 on the road there. Detroit at minus. It kept look, this game, these numbers are fluctuating all the time. So it was 4 -4.5 over under 47.
4.5 right now, 47. Seattle is on the money line is +185. Detroit is at -225.
Perfect. Yeah. As Derek was mentioning, I think we'll get into these with these props here. So I will go first for this game. I do think that like you mentioned it, I think you hit the nail on the head. The Lions are going to run the ball. Much like the Dolphins, I hope that both these teams run the ball, and that's their path to success. You've got almost your entire starting defensive line and some linebackers out for the Seahawks. I mean, that's a lot at very close positions. Like you're replacing entirely your whole front 7. That's pretty tough to do against a team that's already really good at running the ball. Look, Frank Ragnow is one of the best centers in the game. I get it, but they have one of the best offensive lines in the game outside of him. So I think they're able to pick up that slack. So give me David Montgomery over 70.5 rush yards at +130. Also, give me Jahmyr Gibbs, my little sprinkle here out of the backfield, 50+ receiving yards at 5-1. Also love the over 47 here. Now, as much as the Seahawks are beat up on their front 7, they're going to be able to, give some stuff on the ground. The Lions, Brian Branch, like you mentioned, Marcus Davenport, linebacker Derek Barnes, Melifonwu and Mosley are already on the IR. So that secondary that was a bit questionable coming into the year is already pretty beat up. So I do think that Geno and the boys are going to be able to score some points. So give me Geno. Actually, let's go JSN over 60.5 receiving yards at plus 135. Let's go Ken Walker under 40.5 rushing yards at plus 155. He's coming off that oblique injury.
Yep.
The Lions have one of the best rush defenses in the league.
Yep.
Zach Charbonnet is not a bad guy.
He's pretty good.
Yeah, I think Geno Smith over 15.5 rush yards is a play at plus 185. I think, I think you mentioned it, but his right tackles, Lucas and Fan, both right tackle number 1 and right tackle number 2 are out. So he's on his third string right tackle going up against Aiden Hutchinson. That's probably going to lead to some pressure and probably going to lead to him needing to scoot out the backfield there. So I think there's going to be points. I like the Lions run game. And I do think that, Geno and the passing game are going to be able to get some things done.
Yeah, no, I am kind of co-signing a lot of what you're saying here. I really like kind of both backs tonight for the Lions, especially Jahmyr Gibbs. I took his, I believe, over 70 yards on the ground, 60 and 70 yards on the ground. Did a little mini ladder there, especially with all of those guys missing for Seattle up front. They do still have one big piece, really, really big piece in the center with John Hankins, which I think, especially with Ragnow being out, he still could stuff the center of that line that we typically will see David Montgomery in. But give me Gibbs, that little more shifty back, to have a bigger game here. I would not be too surprised if both of those guys score, though. And also give me Sam Laporta to have a little bit of a day here, coming off of an injury. He hasn't really lived up to the hype that he showed coming off of that rookie season. I think he's only gone over 40 yards one time this year. But again, we have 3 linebackers out for Seattle. And I think it's just time for him to return to previous form, like we kind of thought he would.
Are you taking his yards or anytime touchdown?
Yes, I took him over 60 yards at plus 245, and then I sprinkled a 50 in there too. But yep.
Ooh, okay. All right. I love it.
Love it. Has a day.
So you are on the Titans. I'm on the Dolphins. I'm on Detroit in the over. Do you have a side for this?
I am on Detroit. I'm staying away from the line here. But I think this is a speedy game. Both the Seahawks and the Lions kind of like to run the ball. So I don't know if I'm like I said, I'm just gonna stay away from the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The prime time over-unders are always tricky, but I do think the defenses are really beat up on both sides. All right, folks. Now what we're getting into, looking into the next week, and we're doing our injury rundown. This is our bread and butter here. This is what we do as healthcare professionals. So this is where we feel like we give you an edge. So we're going to run through these. Again, jump in the chat. If you guys have anyone specific that you want to talk about, definitely let us know. Hit us up because there's a lot of injury news coming in and out. We're going to breeze through some of it, but the first one we're going to talk about a little bit. Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice picked up a knee injury, man. This was tough. Off an interception. He's going to make the tackle. His left leg, got stuck underneath the defender. Patrick Mahomes actually hit his knee, kind of forced it into some hyperextension. I texted you right away that it was going to be pretty bad based on his reaction and based on how that looked. Still running tests, but out indefinitely. I'm kind of thinking, look, man, I'm preparing for the ACL tear. I'm surprised they haven't said anything definitive after the MRI. Where are you at with this? Yeah,
like you said, I think the mechanism of injury for really a few different kinds of major stabilizing ligaments and other connective tissue things was there. I think everybody jumped straight to that ACL. At this point, without them confirming that with an MRI, I would say that's probably likely. But we've talked about PCLs as well, and usually that front of the knee, direct contact to the front, and kind of force into that hyperextension mechanism can also throw some PCL things in there as well. So I would not be too surprised if we have a little bit of multi-ligament injury here. But yeah, he's sadly going to be out for the remaining part of the year, most likely.
Yeah, that's what I'm preparing for. Look, if we get a miracle and we get some good news and there's something like, I can't even, like a bone bruise sounds so unrealistic, but I mean, obviously that's best case scenario. But I mean, look, Andy Reid and them said, and they're kind of initially that it's not good.
Yeah,
right.
And with him coming out, I think it was at halftime, and he's like, "Yeah, it's not good."
Yeah, it was pretty immediate. I mean, you saw it on the cart. So I would be preparing for a season-ending injury there.
Sure.
All right, moving along, we've got Christian Watson, high ankle sprain.
Imagine that he pops back on the injury report.
Yeah, hey, look, it's not his hamstring, so let's celebrate,
right,
guys?
It's true. Sliding on down.
Yeah, that dreaded MCL high ankle sprain where your ankle gets trapped and your defender lands at the outside part of your foot there. They're talking about, whether they're going to put him on IR or not. I would be expecting, we talk about these high ankles. They talk about try to give these severities a mild, whatever. This is a big injury. He got carted off himself. I'm expecting him to be out or limited for about 4 to 6 weeks. Where are you at with Christian Watson?
Completely agree. Yeah, I don't necessarily think we need to spend a whole lot of time with Christian Watson. Like you said, probably a 4 to 5, 6 week kind of a thing. Probably a performance dip for another week or two.
Yeah. Some big news on the defensive side on a team that they're not good. So this is not good for them. Shaq Thompson, outside linebacker for the Carolina Panthers, believed to have torn Achilles. He's going to get an MRI. But look, folks, when we talk about a Achilles tear, it's pretty cut and dry. I mean, it's a very easy test where you squeeze the calf, and if it doesn't move at all, then the Achilles is probably fully torn, right? I mean, you can probably feel the divot in between, where the Achilles should be connected and the tendon. So I would be, I would be 99.9% that this is definitely an Achilles tear. It's a tough blow. He's really probably the best player on their team, definitely on the defense. So, a bad team gets worse in that regard.
Definitely.
All right, let's talk about a couple Colts guys. Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. Surprise, surprise. Anthony Richardson is injured, man. He has not been able to stay healthy.
Couldn't finish another game. Holy smokes.
I know. Ever since college, not even high school.
Yeah. Yeah, but his is kind of an interesting one. Obviously, on the broadcast yesterday, they were saying hip. Sounds like it's more like an oblique kind of
abdominal
correlated situation with Anthony Richardson. So we've talked about correlated injuries, whether it's your abs, your obliques, any of those kind of things, ribs, and there's a couple of rib cases on the docket today. Any of that kind of stuff. Any kind of movement, any kind of twisting, anytime you laugh, anytime you cough, those muscles are activating and putting some strain and stress on the area that's painful. So just in general, everyday life is pretty painful, let alone getting back on the field.
Yeah, and hey, what's something you have to do in football that involves rotating?
Ooh, he's a quarterback. Anytime you throw, we have to have some hip shoulder movements like that Dak Prescott thing. A couple years
All right,
ago, right?
Shakira, let's calm those hips down. But yes, throwing and rotation is go hand in hand. So that's going to be an interesting one to monitor for Anthony Richardson. Jonathan Taylor picked up an ankle injury late in the game. Looked to be a little bit concerning for some high ankle. They called it a mild high ankle sprain. A high ankle sprain is high ankle sprain, man. I these mild ones, yes, I understand that there's differences in scale of severity, but the high ankle joint is innately a stronger joint. It takes a decent amount of force to injure. So the fact that you have any type of injury, this is not like a low ankle sprain. Most guys don't just bounce right back for him. So we'll see. They said they're not considering the short-term IR, but I'm going to be very interested in his package status. And regardless, I will most likely be fading Jonathan Taylor if he plays this week.
For sure.
All right. Let's talk about some other injuries here. Let's go down the list. Oh, Fred Warner. That's a big one.
That is a big one. Yeah, and this was kind of a strange one too. I mean, he gets this one was a lateral ankle sprain, right?
We don't know yet. They're still kind of one to watch for. All I know is that he said it takes a lot for him to sit out of a game.
Well, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, it seems like these guys tend to come back a little bit quicker. And if it knocks a guy out for the game, you have to be concerned for at least the next week.
Yeah, that's where I was looking for the play. I couldn't find the exact play it happened on, but I'm a little bit of concern for next week for Fred Warner. The fact that he was like, look, dude, I don't sit out. And the fact that this made me sit out, like I had to reconsider. So I'm a little bit worried. We'll kind of get a better idea on Wednesday for him. Just obviously a huge one to watch. He means so much to that team. He had a pick 6 last week. I mean, he's just
heck of a play.
especially with no Greenlaw. He is the heartbeat of that team.
Okay.
So Fred Warner there, something to watch. We got a couple concussions popping up on the list there. We've talked about concussions a couple times, but look, a mild traumatic brain injury, typically a 1 to 2 week recovery timeline. We've discussed how is the NFL going to play this. Will Levis just threw an interception to a defensive lineman. Regression to the mean, baby. Sorry, I just love getting updates on some of our plays.
It's even bad when I looked at that play and it was like over half of a pick at like minus 160. I'm like, that's not even worth throwing that out there.
Juice?
Yeah, and I couldn't. I wish they would have bumped it up to 1.5 and then give me a little bit of juice there.
It was my guy, Emmanuel Agba. Too bad. Can he get a sack with that or what? Apparently he picked it off. But anyway, we'll continue on here so we can all go watch that. All right. Concussions, typically a 1 to 2 week recovery timeline. We were talking about how is the NFL going to handle this, right? For a while, most guys came back within that next week. We've kind of seen a shift to most guys missing a week, right? Trey McBride, Devonta Smith, Lane Johnson, all guys, some of them even practiced and did not play the following week. So, almost getting safe to assume. Now, I will talk about a couple in particular. Trey Palmer, who cashed my anytime touchdown at 6-1, baby. Woke up pissed off. Love him, but he did get knocked out. They play Thursday night, so we can almost rule him out right now. But Malik Neighbors on the other side, he played last Thursday. Now he doesn't. He's got 10 days of recovery. So he's got a realistic shot to be good to go for next week. Would you agree there on Neighbors?
I would. Yep. Usually it's one of those things that just scheduling wise keeps people out. Usually they may be limited on a Friday or something like that, but they need to be at least limited most likely on a Thursday and then at least one full practice that week to clear protocol. So I think Neighbors is probably going to suit up next week.
Couple more on the defensive side of the ball. The Dallas Cowboys dealing with some big time injuries on defense. Micah Parsons looking like he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. Expect him to miss a couple weeks now. I don't think it's going to be the full 4 to 6 weeks that we talk about with offensive players. He might be back closer to 2 to 3 weeks, but I do expect him to be out at this point. And DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be out multiple weeks. They're talking about IR situation there with the midfoot sprain. So two of their best defenders, and that pass rush has been a shell of itself. Now is going to get even worse there. So pretty big trouble there in Dallas. I know they got the W against my Giants, but man, I don't think they look good at all compared to that Dallas team from last year. All right. We are about to move on. Do you have anyone you want to talk about?
I do actually. Since this is a gambling podcast, I know we mainly talk about football, but breaking news, Pete Rose just passed away.
Oh no. Oh damn. Yeah. Well, let's have one for
Charlie Hustle,
baseball legend and a gambling legend.
That's right.
To you, Pete Rose. Man, that's fucking sad. Right before the playoffs start, too?
Shit. I know.
All right. Now that Derek depressed the fuck out of us, let's move on. So, look, folks, if you got anyone you want to know injury-wise, definitely drop the names in the chat. Let us know. But we're going to continue on here, and we are going to be talking about Underdog Fantasy. That's right, folks. We love our friends over at Underdog. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all sports. NFL, college football, MLB payoffs are around the corner. MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, if you're into turning left. Is it right or left? Left turns, right? Left turns.
Left turn.
Their lobby is jam-packed with profit boosts, specials, all the things. And look, folks, we're not just telling you about them just to tell you about them. Sign up today with promo code SGPNDOC. Claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPNDOC. All right, we are moving on, and we're going on to one of the newer segments of the show, and we're going to be talking about Warriors versus Wussies. Why don't you take the Warrior for this week, because I got a fucking bone to pick with our Wussie.
All right, sounds good. So Alvin Kamara having himself a day yesterday, 19 carries, 77 yards, and a tutty, and then he also caught 7 balls for 42 yards. So Alvin Kamara putting up some stats against the Atlanta Falcons with a big division win right there. So
they lost, but
that's right.
They covered.
My guy Koo.
Yeah, that's where the gambling gets us there.
That's right.
They covered the 2.5, so they
That's
didn't
true.
win for us.
Well,
But
even more of a warrior then.
there you go. Yeah. Hey, good teams win. Great teams cover.
That's right.
Alvin Kamara came into the week with a rib and wrist injury. He was limited in practice, and I was saying, hey, look, this is a guy I think you can trust because he didn't practice Wednesday. Wednesday injury reports, don't freak out, guys, especially if the guy finished the game. That's where it's like, look, he's probably just taking a little bit of a rest. So we wanted, hey, this is a guy you can play with confidence. Boom. He came through for us. Now, a guy who is just injury or not has consistently not came through for fucking anybody is Zamir White. Zamir White is a guy who has all the opportunity in the world, right? He led the league in rushing the last 4 weeks of the last season. I was on him. I was a big Zamir White supporter. Hand up. My name is Sebastian, and I am a Zamir White addict, whatever it was. I'm fucking off this guy, man. 17 carries, 50 yards, which I think is his most rushing yards all season. But no, this fumble that he had, the Raiders were up by 10. Look, I was intently watching this game, man. This was, I put decent amount of coin on this game. The Raiders became an underdog. They were plus 130 at home against a bad Browns team. I love this spot. They were up by 10. They were icing the game away. The Browns offense was dead, and he fumbled the ball, which led directly to a defensive touchdown. My goodness, Zamir White. Get him out of the game. Get him out of the fucking league. Alexander Mattison, anybody else, put him in. But Zamir White, congratulations. You are our wussy.
And it sounds like Coach Pierce is getting that message too. He's already come out and said, hey, Alexander Mattison probably deserves a few more carries. So leading forward, like you said, I'm definitely off Zamir White.
Gee whiz. Everybody, if it's for your health, folks, get off Zamir White.
Yep.
All right. We are staying in the fantasy space, and we are heading over to our waiver wire targets. Look, folks, bye weeks are getting started. Guys are getting banged up. I know you got needs on your roster, so we are going to tell you about some guys you should be targeting and why. All right, my friend, I will let you lead off with the first couple. I'll let you take your QB1 there in Justin Fields.
Let's do it. So Justin Fields had himself a little bit of a day, kind of quietly yesterday. So threw for over 300 yards, passing touchdown, and then he ran for another 55 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So Justin Fields, although they did lose the game yesterday, has started to show some upside in the Steelers offense. They've started to trust him a little bit more in the passing game, starting to open things up with him on the ground as well. So he had a 30 burger yesterday, over 30 points in fantasy. So he is definitely one that I will be targeting, especially as beat up as that Dallas defense is. And really, they just have not been able to stop the run most of the season. And then Kareem Hunt coming in there to Kansas City, or returning to Kansas City, ended up running for about 69 yards yesterday on 14 carries. Carson Steele seemed like a dude. He just cannot hold on to the ball. So I really think Kansas City, it will be turning to Kareem Hunt for the majority of the carries. Again, they've got a couple wide receivers out. I would not be surprised if they kind of flip back to the game script of last season and go run heavy, play some good defense, and then Patrick Mahomes bails them out in the end.
Yeah. No, I like it. All right, Josh Downs, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. Look, this is a guy who picked up a high ankle sprain early in the season, right before the season started.
Yep.
Guys kind of forgot about him. We were saying, hey, just be careful with Josh Downs. He's probably going to be out in a couple weeks. He's came back. He's looked pretty good. And I especially like this if it's Joe Flacco starting.
For sure.
He had himself a good game last week, and he's going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense that is horrid, terrible. They got injuries all over the place, and they're just not good. So I like Josh Downs this week. Xavier Legette, I was talking about him. I was talking him up. I mean, he cashed in nice plus 360 for me with over 60 yards receiving. He is becoming the wide receiver too. Adam Thielen is on the IR. Yeah. Deontay Johnson is the main guy, of course, but he's already picked up. But this is the wide receiver too for an offense that's going to be down. They're going to be needing to throw the ball, and now they have a competent quarterback in the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. And the Bucs tight end, Cade Otton, picked up 9 points last week and 11 this week. He's kind of showing some consistency that he showed last year. That offense, that Buccaneers offense, is pretty dynamic. especially through the air. Baker trusts him and
big
likes
time,
him.
big time passing offense, and he's really turned into that third wide receiver or third passing option for Baker.
And especially this week, Jalen McMillan is likely out again with his hamstring, and so is Trey Palmer with that concussion. So I know Sterling Shepard may get some run, but Cade Otton's probably going to be the third option there in that pass game against the Falcons defense that is already down a couple linebackers.
I love it.
All right, folks, before we get to our early line locks and get the fuck out of here, we are got to tell you about Rhythm. That is right, folks. Talking about Rhythm, our favorite model company. They are a proud partner because they are the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Look, you can build your own model. You can use the model that Rhythm likes. One of the coolest things is that it breaks down that barrier of like, hey, I want to get into gambling. Oh, look at this sports gambling guru. Look at this savant because he's got his own model. You can make your own model. Take what stats you like, put them into Rhythm, and Rhythm will help you out. It'll break that down and make you realize that a lot of those dudes are just scumbags that don't know what they're talking about. So definitely check out Rhythm, and we're not just telling you about them. We're going to give you a 7-day free trial. So claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And our friends over at BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business at BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. They've got easy deposits with cryptocurrency and lightning fast payouts. US players are welcome. Use our link to sign up and get 125% deposit bonus or on your first 3 deposits. Wow. Usually it's only 1 on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN so they know we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. All right, my friend. Much like Scott Hansen says, we are now at the witching hour. And that means that if you have any last-minute questions, folks, hop in the chat. Now is your time because we are going to give out our early line locks. We're looking ahead to NFL Week 5, something that we already have money on because we like it so much right now. My friend, I will let you go first.
So the Vikings might be like a top 5 team in the league going up against the Jets team that, although that was an ugly game against the Broncos, there was some weather, there was some just straight ugliness, the lack of offense, period. But Aaron Rodgers, I think, took like 18, 19 hits yesterday. So that Vikings defense has been legit so far. So I like the Vikings at -2.5.
London
looking ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Give me Vikings. And then the Bears finally started to show a little bit of life in the second half of that game against
Los Angeles
Rams. The Rams. There we go. And they're going up against the Carolina Panthers. So I still am kind of out on the whole Andy Dalton thing, but they were playing a pretty bad team this past week with the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'll take the Bears at -4 and then give me the Texans at home against the Bills.
Okay. All right. Like it. All right. I will be taking us to some different games here. I'm going to take us to the Thursday night game. Tampa Bay +105 on the money line right now. This has dropped a little bit, so I would get on it now before they flip and become favorites. Look, I know they're a little bit beat up, but they are a solid team, man. I don't know what it's going to take. And the Falcons, we look at their 2 wins. It took a last-minute drive there against the Eagles. Really, the Eagles more blew that game. Yeah. And then last week, oh, my goodness, the Saints, I don't know how they lost that game. The Saints muffed the punt. They had a tipped interception touchdown. The Falcons scored like 25, 26 points and did not score an offensive touchdown. Talk about fluke. So I think they're on a little bit of a fluke run. I think it stops with Tampa Bay, puts it on them there. I like the Giants +6. Took it now because I think the Seahawks, beat up as they are, I think they get beat down even more against the Lions. I know I said I would not take my Giants, but they look competent. We talk about big spreads over 5.5, 6, 6.5. I think they just keep it somewhat close there. Even in Seattle, I think that they're competent enough. I think Neighbors is back, which is a big thing. I think they're able to run the ball. And then Pittsburgh. I'm right back on the Pittsburgh train. -2.5, baby. No Michael Parsons, no Marcus Lawrence. You have one of the worst rush defenses in the league, and you have an offense that is likely getting back guard Isaac Sumalu. And I think they run the rock. And I think that's really all it takes. That Dallas offensive line against the Pittsburgh defensive line is a matchup I really like. So back on Pittsburgh, look, I know they dropped a game, but even in that game where they kind of came out super flat, they were right there to go ahead and come back and get it done. So those are the plays there. All right, my friend, you got anything else for the good people before we get out of here?
Nope. Just follow, share, like, all the things. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, all the things. We really appreciate it. Being a newer show, any support that we get is greatly appreciated. If you have any feedback for us, if you're wanting to know anything specific, throw that in there as well, and we'll take it and run with it.
Yeah, like my co-host is saying, definitely follow us on all the socials. X, we put a lot of, more up-to-date. If you want the most up-to-date injury news, follow at X, on X at the Degen Doc there. You definitely want that account. And look, we appreciate it. Definitely like, subscribe. Look out. We're going to be running a contest here regarding boosting us up a little bit. You can win some free merch. So you're definitely going to want to stay tuned. Monday, Thursday, every week around 7:15, we are going live. We're going to have a preview of that game, and then we're going to talk about the weeks. So Monday night, more fantasy football focus. Thursday, we turn to the betting page. We turn to getting you paid. All right, folks. Hey, if you tailed with us tonight on those 2 games that we gave out, good luck. If you faded us, we hope you suck. But other than that, from the Degen Docs, you know what they say, folks. A lock a day keeps the bookie away, and we've got your prescription. From the Degen Docs, we are out of here.
Let it ride.
What's up, Degens? Doc here. As a proud member of the U.S. Army and a lover of football, sometimes those two things cross over on here. But as you probably already know, as a lowly captain, these are just my opinions. These are not opinions that are representative of the entire DoD or the U.S. Army. The same thing goes for any references to any commercial products or hyperlinks. Again, that does not constitute an endorsement from the DoD or the Army. I hope you enjoyed the show, and as always, let it ride.